Hello everyone, it's Emily from Top Table TCG here. This is a deck profile of my 5-1 boost list. We didn't top, but might as well record the deck profile that did the best in the standard on London.
We didn't top, end the video there.
So 5-1, obviously boost best deck. It's not, but I like to pretend it is. So we've got shinies here. We obviously play the boost ride line because soul charges, draws, no reason not to. Best deck, best thing there. So for grade ones. It's not too. It's pretty standard. The grade ones really. We run 3 Doba. This I'll preference this by saying it's a non-OTK build. So this is more of like this is more based on like the grade 3 sort of build that you see. It doesn't run the OTK or pandemonium tactics or anything like that. So it's more based around just getting like 3 Vanguard attacks in 3 turns in a row and just beating your opponent down and just hopefully winning through just like beating them down like that. So you run 3 Doba, it gives you soul, gives you 10k. The deck desperately needs power, so you'll see later on the specific tech that I did that made this deck I think really perform really well because people didn't expect it. So you'll see why I did that. So I got 3 Doba, obviously just helps get the soul and the 10k, so it's really good. And you can boost with it originally, put it to soul, so it comes with an 8k booster to then a 10k booster. Then obviously 4 PGs. Then we have 4 Swirler. Non-OTK build, so this is basically mostly just a 13k attacker booster. It can be a 13k attacker on your turn if you don't have any attackers. 23k obviously with the grade 3 order. Then you could also, if you keep it around and you use Marjorie on Doba instead of using Doba's skill, this Swirler can then become 18k. So you don't really use it for like you use it more for the soul charge than you do the power. So it's mostly just there for the soul charge. So you can run Gungam as a like budget option if you don't have the Swirlers. Next we have 4 Eden. Eden is very, very good. Gains a crit. Now obviously we're not playing the OTK build, so we need as much crit as possible. So 4 Eden gains a crit and gets 5k. So when it restands it gets a crit. And it's really good for early game rush as well. But throw this down, especially against the mirror match, throw this down if you go in second, your opponent has a starter out. You attack with it, and they've either got to guard it, or they lose the starter, so they lose a draw. So they're either losing 1 card out of hand, or not gaining a card in hand later on. So Eden's very good for the early game rush. If your opponent tries to rush you down yourself, you can swing this into a rear guard. A lot of people forget that it's just on hit and don't have to take a Vanguard. So you attack into a rear guard, they retire that rear guard, you can Cannon Blast to then kill the other rear guard. Very, very strong card. Like I say, very good card. That crit is very helpful, because obviously we don't run the OTK build, so we need as much crit as possible. And as you'll see later, there'll be another reason why we run Eden instead of the crits. Next one that might be a bit surprising. For Leonard. We run Leonard in this build, which not many people run Leonard in grade 4 build because its effect doesn't go off. But you know its effect does go off when you're on grade 3. So I built this deck around rushing down early, if you can, keeping your pieces, and also this deals with Magnolia. And Magnolia is big at the match at the moment until potential ban list in July 8th. So depending on when you watch this, it might not be big anymore. But it was big at the time of the event at London BSF. So Leonard obviously attacks a column. So it gets around MPix. It gets 15k attack on its own. And obviously with the order it gets 25k. So it can attack MPix and the card in front of it, which is really, really good. They either have to take 2 cards out of hand, or they have to guard them, or they have to just retire both, which obviously against Magnolia is very strong because they want to keep this board. And if it hits, you soul charge 1. So if you attack into like an MPix column and they don't guard it, you soul charge 2 if you're on grade 4. And if you're on grade 3, for some reason you haven't seen the grade 4, you get soul charge 2, and then you still get the effect of calling something out. So early game, what you can do is ride to your grade 3 turn, and even though you're not final rush, you can attack with this, and if your opponent lets it hit and they don't get defensive, you can soul charge and call anything out. So I usually used it to call out Richard. So you soul charge, call out Richard. Richard can attack for 10. This can attack for 10. That's 2 attacks, and then obviously you got Vanguard for 13. So that's 3 attacks early on. Not many people expect it because they expect you not to do it onto your final rush turn. So it's very important. Leonard is very, very strong, and I think it's mostly in here, mostly for the Magnolia matchup. So it'll probably be taken out soon if Magnolia does get hit, as I say. So that'll be coming out. Next we have 3 Marjorie. I only went 3 Marjorie because I felt like the order was more important, and I didn't really have any room to take anything else out. You could potentially take out 1 Doba, but I feel like the 3 was needed in case you didn't see anything else. So it was just a card that went to solve, made 10k, made the 8k. It's really, really good. Next to play 4 orders. Like I say, the order very, very good. Cannon Blast, draw card. Front row against 10k. Really good card. Draws you a card. Helps draws into pieces. So that's really good. Helps you hit numbers, which this deck really needs. You really need to hit the numbers. Like I say, like it hits 25, so it's usually only 15k card most of the time. But if you got booster or anything like, even if it's an 8k booster, it's 2 cards out of hand. Could be 33 or 38. So it's really good. You need this to 4, in my opinion. Next, we run 4 Diablos Unrivaled Boosts. Grade 4 Vanguard. It's a grade 4. In terms of all the other grade 4s, it's one of the worst in my opinion. Simply because it requires so much cost. Like Magnolia, for example, does what Boost does, but for no cost at all. So this is Cannon Blast 1, Soul Blast 5, end of battle if you're Final Rush. When attacked, if you're in Final Rush, Cannon Blast 1, Soul Blast 5. Stand over all your front row, and this unit gets -2 drives. Very good pressure. This is why I didn't want to do the OTK build. Obviously, I understand the OTK build. Make your Vanguard have 3 crit base and then swing for it twice. I understand that. But I personally wasn't a fan of that build because I feel like you deck out. If you don't win in that 1 OTK turn, then you basically just lose. So I wasn't a fan of that. So this is really good. Swinging with Vanguard twice, 2 or 3 turns in a row is very strong and can potentially win games. Like, it's really, really good. Now well, what people also will say was Spice is later on in there. So first we got the OT. Obviously, it's just OT. 10k in crit Vanguard, very good if you try to check it. Then we only run 4 crit. Now you might think Rainbow Triggers, which you're partly right, obviously 4 heals. But then, what we actually did, instead of draws, because I don't think you need draws in this deck, you draw a lot anyway, is we ran 7 front triggers. Now this deck is really desperately needs is power, if you're not running the OTK build. So it required a lot more luck stack than over builds, because obviously the OTK build like guaranteed the power with the Bryans and stuff like that. But this came up so much. You attack with Bruce, or your front row is like swinging for like 15k's or 25k's, and you drive to take a front or 2, and then suddenly it's 35k's, 45k's, and your opponent's not expecting it. So it's really strong against your opponent. So like all of a sudden, like there are cards that they think that you could guard with just one with like a 15k shield. All of a sudden they can't guard it anymore. 7 fronts is easily the way to go in Boost in my opinion, even after Festival Collection, because you've got the grade 2 that gets more power, so you just be hitting even higher numbers. And like I say, you can run more crits if you want, but I honestly really do think that the fronts are worth it, especially nowadays when you want to kill your opponents fast with this deck, because you're a very slow deck anyway, being Boost, because you can't reach Final Rush until turn 4. You have to rely on rushing your opponent down soon by like calling cards down early, units early, rushing them down, potentially checking crits if you run more than 4 crit. But I really do think that 7 front is the way to go. I was tempted to do 8 front, but you needed that extra crit just for that potential early game pressure. If you didn't see your units and then you drive check a crit, it just helps push them to more damage later on. So that is the Boost deck list. Like I say, 7 front, it worked out really well for me. I went 5-1. That was my own personal record. I only lost to Gravidia Meteor, so you know I think the deck performs really well in testing. It did like 30 wins and 6 losses or whatever. It did really good. Like I tried the grade 3 build and it didn't do as well, in my opinion. So like testing wise, so I really do think that this is the best way to go with Boost at the moment. I'll probably do a post Festival Collection deck list because it will change after that. But I've got to mess around with that first, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway guys, it's been Emily from Top Table TCG. Have a nice one.